You probably recognize that song. That's because the Mario series is home to some of the greatest soundtracks in all of gaming, and I want to figure out which Mario game has the best soundtrack. So I put 32 Mario games against each other in a tournament to figure this out. Obviously, music taste is subjective, so this is all gonna come down to personal opinion. So if you disagree with me, you're entitled to be wrong. One little side note before I begin, I'm not gonna be including any Mario Kart games, Mario Party games, Mario Sports games, Paper Mario games, or any games from the Mario and Luigi series. So the first matchup of round 1, amazingly, even though I had this randomized, the first matchup of round 1 still ended up being the first Super Mario Bros. Versus the second Super Mario Bros. So, out of these two games, which one has the better soundtrack? Well, in my opinion, both these games' soundtracks are pretty equal. Between the two of them, there's only like 10 songs, but all of those songs are memorable. So this really just comes to a matter of personal preference, and for me, I prefer the soundtrack of Super Mario Bros. 2, especially the character select theme and the main theme and the credits theme. It's better in my opinion. Alright, so Super Mario Bros. 2 moves on to the second round. The second matchup is Super Mario World versus Super Mario All-Stars. This is an interesting matchup because technically this is the soundtrack of one game versus the soundtrack of 4 games, because Super Mario All-Stars is a collection of the first 4 Super Mario Bros. Games. And you might think that would give Mario All-Stars the edge, but I'm actually going to give this to Super Mario World. The reason for that is because, well, first off, Super Mario World's soundtrack is amazing. The castle theme alone puts it over Super Mario All-Stars. Also, Super Mario All-Stars kind of has a divisive soundtrack for most people. A lot of people say that the NES Mario songs work better in the NES soundfront, and when these games were ported to the SNES, they had to use the Super Nintendo soundfront, and they ended up sounding worse because of it, and I'm in that camp that thinks that. So Super Mario World is going to be moving on to the second round. The third matchup of round 1 is Super Mario 64 versus Super Mario Land 2, and this is a very easy one for me. Super Mario 64 wins this. Super Mario Land 2, in my opinion, has one of the weaker soundtracks in the series. The athletic theme is very good, but everything else is just kind of forgettable. Like, off the top of my head, I can't even remember anything else. So Mario 64 gets the easy win here, in my opinion. Alright, the next matchup is Hotel Mario vs. Donkey Kong. And yes, despite the fact that the name of the game is Donkey Kong, this is a Mario game. Don't be confused by the name. And if you're scratching your head wondering what the hell's going on, no, Hotel Mario was not a fever dream. This is a real game. And you know what? Despite how awful of a game Hotel Mario is, it actually has a decent soundtrack, and I don't even know why I put Donkey Kong in here because it doesn't really have a soundtrack in the first place. Like, there's a little 15-second jingle on the title screen, but that's it. And yes, I did actually take the time to listen to Hotel Mario's soundtrack, and it actually made me nostalgic, because back in the day, I used to watch YouTube poops and funny edits of this game's cutscenes, so it really brought me back. Especially the songs in the opening cutscenes, it really hit me in the heart. So, I can't believe I'm saying this, but Hotel Mario is going to the second round. It's incredible. Alright, the next matchup is Super Mario Land versus Super Mario Bros. 3. And this is another easy one to me. Super Mario Bros. 3 wins this. Now, this is not to discredit Super Mario Land's soundtrack. It definitely does have some great songs, but Super Mario Bros. 3 has a much bigger soundtrack, and all of those songs are amazing. So, in my eyes, Super Mario Bros. 3 has the better soundtrack. I mean, it has the airship theme. How could it not win over Super Mario Land? Alright, the next matchup is a tough one for me. New Super Mario Bros. Versus Bowser's Fury, which was the add-on to the Super Mario 3D World port, like the open world side quest. But this is a hard one for me because New Super Mario Bros., the one on the DS at least, is very nostalgic for me. The soundtrack is amazing. And I want to give it the win here, but man, Bowser's Fury is on another level. I mean, it's a soundtrack that has everything. Awesome rock songs, beautiful orchestrated songs. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I gotta give Bowser's Fury the win here. Alright, next is Mario Clash versus Mario Brothers. And this is kind of like a Donkey Kong situation here. I don't even know why I included Mario Brothers in this tournament because it doesn't have a soundtrack. It has some 5-second jingles, but there isn't a soundtrack. Mario Clash does actually have a soundtrack. I've never listened to it before, but by default, I gotta put it over Mario Brothers. Okay, the next matchup is... oh no, New Super Mario Bros. Wii versus Super Mario RPG. No. Oh wait, actually this is an easy one. Super Mario RPG. New Super Mario Bros. Wii... I grew up with this game, and it's very nostalgic for me, but I'm willing to admit the soundtrack isn't really the greatest. It reuses a lot of songs from the first New Super Mario Bros. Games, and it kinda butchers them a little bit. So, I'm putting over Super Mario RPG, and besides, Super Mario RPG, like, what are we talking about? It has one of the greatest soundtracks in all of gaming. Next is New Super Mario Bros. U versus Dr. Mario. You know what? I'm gonna take a second to actually listen to the Dr. Mario soundtrack. Alright, I'm done listening to the Dr. Mario soundtrack, and it's alright. I mean, it has some good songs in here, like Fever and Chill are pretty good songs, but everything else kinda sounds weird to me. but man, I really don't know what to go with here because I'm actually not the biggest fan of either one of these soundtracks. New Super Mario Bros. U has the same problem as New Soup Wii, where I'm not the biggest fan of the instrumentation that they use. But if I have to go with one, I'm gonna go with New Super Mario Bros. U, because I feel like it does have more songs that I like over Dr. Mario, so New Super Mario Bros. U is moving on to round 2. Oh no, I just looked at the next round. I gotta pick between Super Mario Odyssey and Super Mario 3D World. Oh my god, I have no idea which one to pick. Both of these soundtracks are amazing, and I consider both of them to be some of the best that this series has to offer, but if I have to pick one, this might surprise people, but I think I'm gonna go with Super Mario 3D World, because when I think about it, Super Mario 3D World is just oops all bangers. Super Mario Odyssey does have some songs that are kind of just ambient noise or kind of just blippity bloppity bloopity kind of generic Mario music. Super Mario 3D World, every song is one that you're going to go back to listen to, even though Super Mario Odyssey is amazing. So I'm going to go with this one. Alright, the next one is Super Mario Sunshine vs. Wrecking Crew. And listen, Wrecking Crew has some good songs, but I haven't even listened to the full OST of Super Mario Sunshine, but I already know it's better than Wrecking Crew. Next up is Super Mario Maker vs. Super Mario Maker 2. Wow, I had this randomized. This still ended up being one of the matchups. Man, both have amazing soundtracks, but if I have to go with one... Oh wait, no, this is easy. Super Mario Maker 2, because it has all those new amazing songs for the different new level themes that they made, so yeah, this is easy for me actually. Alright, Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels versus New Super Mario Bros. 2. I'm picking The Lost Levels. New Super Mario Bros. 2 has the worst soundtrack in the series. Those bars actively make the game a worse experience for me. So I'm picking The Lost Levels, even though it does have a basic soundtrack, and it's literally just the same soundtrack as the first Mario. But New Super Mario Bros. 2's soundtrack is just too god-awful. It is horrendous, so I gotta go with The Lost Levels. Alright, the next round is Mario Paint versus Super Mario 3D Land. I've never listened to Mario Paint soundtrack, but I know it is iconic, so I'm actually going to give it a listen. Alright, so after listening to Mario Paint's soundtrack, I think I'm going to go with Super Mario 3D Land for this one. Mario Paint is good, it definitely has some really good songs, but man, Super Mario 3D Land is nearly as good as Super Mario 3D World. Like, other than maybe like the quality of the sound, so I'm giving it to Super Mario 3D Land. Next is Mario's Time Machine versus Super Mario Galaxy 2. And if you're wondering what Mario's Time Machine is, don't get too excited because it's an educational game and it is terrible. And I don't even have to listen to Mario's Time Machine's soundtrack to tell you that Super Mario Galaxy 2 has one of the greatest soundtracks in all of gaming, so I'm giving it to Super Mario Galaxy 2. And the last matchup of round 1 is Super Mario Galaxy versus New Super Luigi U, and there isn't a galaxy, a timeline in the universe, any shape, way, or form that New Super Luigi U is beating Super Mario Galaxy. So Super Mario Galaxy is moving on. On to round 2, which begins with Super Mario Bros. 2 versus Super Mario World. And this one's easy, Super Mario World. Super Mario Bros. 2 has some great songs, but man, Super Mario World soundtrack is just a jam the whole way through. Especially the credits music. I can hear that song at any time and I'll instantly be transported back to when I was a kid, first beating the game. So I gotta give it to Super Mario World. Second matchup of round 2 is Super Mario 64 versus Hotel Mario. And Hotel Mario is good, but it is not beating a legendary soundtrack like Super Mario 64. Like, come on, it's not beating Dire Dire Docks. Alright, the third matchup of round 2 is Super Mario Bros. 3 versus Bowser's Fury. And sorry Mario 3, but you're losing this one. Alright, next up is Mario Clash versus Super Mario RPG. And I don't even have to listen to Mario Clash's soundtrack to tell you that Super Mario RPG is one of the greatest soundtracks in gaming. Alright, next is New Super Mario Bros. U versus Super Mario 3D World. Super Mario 3D World is one of the best soundtracks in the series, and like I said, I'm not the biggest fan of New Super Mario Bros. U soundtrack, so I'm giving it to Super Mario 3D World. Super Mario Sunshine versus Super Mario Maker 2. I gotta listen to both these soundtracks again. After listening to both soundtracks, this might come as a bit of an upset, but I'm picking Super Mario Maker 2. Super Mario Sunshine has a very unique soundtrack, and I really like it, but Super Mario Maker 2 has a collection of so many legendary soundtracks. It includes Super Mario 3D World soundtrack, which I already consider one of the greatest soundtracks in the series, but it also has new compositions that are incredible as well. And Super Mario Sunshine is a little bit of a one-trick pony where all the songs are kinda using the same instruments. Not all the songs, but quite a good chunk of them. So I'm giving the edge to Super Mario Maker 2. Alright, next is Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels versus Super Mario 3D Land. This isn't even close, Super Mario 3D Land wins. And now the age-old question, Super Mario Galaxy 2 versus Super Mario Galaxy. Which one has the better soundtrack? I will say, Super Mario Galaxy 2 does have some kinda generic songs that, when I did listen to the soundtrack, I completely forgot about them. And Super Mario Galaxy 2 does run into the problem of having too many songs that are just variations of the first level's theme. Meanwhile, Super Mario Galaxy is all original songs, all memorable songs, and just, like, Super Mario Galaxy is on another level in a way that I can't even describe properly. So, oh man, it's still a tough choice to make, but I'm giving the edge to Super Mario Galaxy. And just like that, we're in round 3. Super Mario World versus Super Mario 64. Oh boy. If this was which do I think is the better game, I would be putting Super Mario World in the next round. But this is about the soundtracks, and man, Super Mario 64, even though I'm not the biggest fan of the game, its soundtrack, it makes me happy. Super Mario World's soundtrack makes me happy as well, but man, when I listen to songs like Dire Dire Docks, the Bowser's theme, the Bowser stage themes, and the final boss themes, and Slider, it's just, man, it's so good. And that's what I will give to Super Mario 64. It has a legendary soundtrack, and I'm putting it over Super Mario World. Alright, the next matchup. Bowser's Fury versus Super Mario RPG. Super Mario RPG and Bowser's Fury are very close in my opinion. Oh man, Bowser's Fury has Crisp Climb Castle and Scamper Shores. But Super Mario RPG has the forest music and all the different music in the towns and the battle themes and the Booster's Tower. I don't know which one I'm gonna pick. I will say this. Bowser's Fury has a lot of rock songs that are a little bit generic. They're not bad, but when I think of like memorable rock songs in video games, I'm thinking of like Doom, or even Donkey Kong Country has some, weirdly enough. But I don't know, Bowser's Fury's rock songs are a tad generic. But Super Mario RPG has no generic songs, in my eyes, so, oh man, I'm giving the edge to Super Mario RPG, which, just saying that is insane to me, but Super Mario RPG moves on to the next round. And then, we have Super Mario 3D World versus Super Mario Maker 2. This is a bit of a weird one because Super Mario Maker 2 has Super Mario 3D World's soundtrack in it. And Super Mario Maker 2 also has all the soundtracks from the classic 2D Mario games, so which one am I giving this to? The thing is, Super Mario Maker 2 doesn't have all the songs from Super Mario 3D World. Hell, it doesn't even have some of the best songs from Super Mario 3D World in my opinion. So, man, some of the best songs from Super Mario 3D World are better than the entire soundtrack of some of the games that Super Mario Maker 2 includes. So, man, also Super Mario 3D World, I'm biased towards because I grew up with that game and its soundtrack is so memorable to me, but I gotta give it to Super Mario 3D World. It moves on to the semifinals. Then we have Super Mario 3D Land versus Super Mario Galaxy. And this goes to Galaxy. I mean, is this a shock to anyone? If it's beating Galaxy 2, it's beating 3D Land. Alright, the semifinals start with Super Mario 64 and Super Mario RPG. To me, it comes down to two songs. It comes down to if Dire Dire Docks is better, or if Beware the Forest Mushrooms is better. You can be the judge of that, but I'm saying Super Mario RPG soundtrack is better, which is insane to say. That's crazy to me, because both of these soundtracks are amazing, but I don't know why I'm giving it to Super Mario RPG in the finals. And then Super Mario 3D World versus Super Mario Galaxy. Let me tell you this, if Super Mario Galaxy wasn't here, Super Mario 3D World would win the whole tournament. But Super Mario Galaxy, like, I listen to songs like Buoy Base Galaxy or Battle Rock Galaxy, and listening to those is a better experience than listening to the entire soundtrack of Super Mario 3D World. That's the level that Super Mario Galaxy is operating at. So, Super Mario Galaxy moves on to the finals. And the final two soundtracks that are going against each other, Super Mario RPG versus Super Mario Galaxy. And you wanna know what? I'm giving it to Super Mario Galaxy, and it isn't even close. It's not even close. The gap between Super Mario RPG and Super Mario Galaxy is so huge. The thing is, I didn't grow up with Super Mario Galaxy. I only played it until a few years ago when I was around 17 years old, and it was the last time I played a game for the first time, and the whole way through, I felt like I was a kid again, playing Super Mario World for the first time, or Super Mario 3D World for the first time, and it takes a very, very special soundtrack to do that. In fact, it takes one of the greatest soundtracks of all time to be able to do that. So, Super Mario Galaxy wins. I mean, it has Gusty Garden Galaxy. Are we really gonna argue that Super Mario Galaxy isn't the greatest Mario soundtrack of all time? So that's my opinion on what the greatest Mario soundtrack of all time is. In all honesty, anyone could make an argument for most of these games that they are the best soundtracks in the series, so I want to hear your thoughts on it. And let me know what you think of these types of videos. Also, you could have watched this video a week early, but you chose not to. Because on my Patreon, for $5 a month, you can get a week's early access to most of my videos, because sometimes I'll just spontaneously upload stuff in the moment, but all the big important uploads, you'll get to see them a week early. And you can vote on what my next video should be. For now, all I ask you to do is go to my Patreon and answer this question that I've posed to you. You don't have to pay anything to answer it. but I have asked what other benefits would you like to get out of my Patreon, because I've never done something like this before, and I don't really know what you guys would want to get out of this sort of thing. So, tell me on my Patreon. So, go to patreon.com/WillySmalls and shower me with money, peasants.